Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and happy Independence anniversary to all Nigerians at home and diaspora. My name is Moses Oludele Idowu. Moses Oludele Idowu. I'm a researcher and a writer, an author of many publications, author of several publications on African church history and African God's General Series. I've written several books on Apostle Joseph Babalola, Prophet Daniel Orekoya, Samson Oladeji Akande, Baba Abiye, Saint Moses Orimolade Tunolase, and several other people of those early time. This present video, in the last few weeks and days, I have seen some videos on YouTube and on social media that are very disparaging, very inaccurate. Okay, and I want to correct some of these things. The falsehoods that have been pushed through these videos, the inaccuracies, the distortions. I want to set the record straight for the sake of posterity. So this present video is on Prophet Daniel Orekoya, who is known as the prophet of Okebola. Before I go on this this man, this unusual man, let me say one or two things about the work that we have been able to do and what I've been able to achieve by the grace of God. A lot of people have heard of the prophet who raised a 4-day-old corpse at Okebola in 1930. And the name is well known even to CAC and to other churches and so on. But very few people, not many people, in fact, no one has bothered to research this man, to dig out the man. All we just knew that there was a man called Daniel Orekoya. So in 2010, this is the history of the research. Okay? A scholar said before you study the history, study the historian. So I'm giving you a brief background of myself before I go into the story of Daniel Orekoya, the authentic story from an authentic researcher and scholar. So in 2010, 2009, I decided to investigate the story of this man. And having done a bit of research at the archive, browsing through the newspapers of 1928, 29, and 30, and getting all I could get about him, I decided to make a visit, to pay a visit to his homeland. I went to Ijebu-Ode, to the Precious Stone Church Society in Ijebu-Ode. And they themselves, they just know that there is a Orekoya, but they themselves do not know, they cannot tell much about him. I searched their graveyard. I could not see that of Orekoya. So nobody to tell me about. So I moved on to his hometown in Ijebu Imushin. In Ijebu, I think Ijebu not local government. I don't know whether it has changed now. When I got to the town, into Ijebu Mushin, I began to investigate, going from house to house to talk to old people. Do you know anybody in this town called Daniel Orekoya, who was a great prophet? None of the people I spoke to knew about Orekoya. But I remember that during my research in the archive, that in the only interview that Orekoya himself granted, he did mention that is from the Odonopa quarters in Ijebu Imushin. So I asked, where is this quarters? And when I got to the quarters, I began to ask, where is this? They did not know who Orekoya is. But thank God, there was an elderly man, a community leader. And now remember, that Orekoya did mention in that singular interview that he had, which I saw in the archive, that he had a cousin who is Pa Asunemasu Olorun. That's his name. The only cousin that he mentioned that he had in that interview. Pa Asunemasu Olorun. So I asked this community leader, where is Pa Asunemasu Olorun's house? And then they showed me to the house. And that is the house of Orekoya. It was that elderly man, that old man, who now told me that yes, Orekoya was indeed from that town. And that is the house of Pastor Nemasolo. I went to the house, and for the very first time, I took the picture of that house. For the very first time, I established the origin, the family house of Daniel Orekoya. Nobody had done that. Up to that time, nobody had done. Then I interviewed the daughter of that man. Did your father ever mention that he had a prophet, he had an uncle who was based in Lagos, a prophet who died? You know, Orekoya died as far back as 1931. He was the first to die. He died even before Orimolade. So very few people know. Even in CAC, they didn't know until I completed my research. I can say that they don't know him. So did your father tell you about any man that he says no? I said, okay, bring out all your records, all the records of your father. And she brought out the books and whatever. And we began to search whether they would find any reference to Orekoya. We did not find. But at least I was able to establish the family house of Orekoya. Having established the family, I went back to that old man. And he was the one who now told me, and there I made the greatest breakthrough, that not only that, Orekoya still had a niece. He still had the very son of his sister. Is it niece or nephew, you call it? That he still had, in fact, the son of his sister, who is still alive in Ibadan. And that and he gave me the phone number, and that I could trace him. And all the artifacts of Orekoya, you will see that in this video, that they are with him. So I made a breakthrough. My visit to Ijebu Motion was outstanding success. I took all the pictures and whatever. So a week later, I was on the way to Ibadan to again try to locate this man who was who was living somewhere in Okeado. I still could not get him. I went back again to Ijebu to find. He now again sent me another document, another film, and then I went until I was able to now locate this man who was in fact an assistant to Orekoya in 1930 during that great revival. And he was the one who brought out all the advice. You will see that in this video. He was the one who now showed me the picture of our own mother, who is the only sister. So Orekoya's mother gave birth to several children, but they died. However, Orekoya survived, and his sister. The name of that sister is Madam Dorcas Teresa. You will also see a picture in this video. So this is about the research. So what I've done about Orekoya is authentic. Okay? By the grace of God, we will be able to gather authentic facts, not fables. So all this rubbish that some people are posting online to garner crowd, to make money on YouTube, is very, very depressing. Which is why I've now come out with the truth and the authentic story of this man as the foremost and the original researcher on an authority, foremost and leading authority on this prophet and most of those prophets of the 1930 revival. Please let anyone controvert me about what I said. I challenge anyone to come out. So upon this, I now bring to you the authentic story of Orekoya. Daniel Orekoya was born around the period of the early last century, the beginning of last century, around 1900. Of course, you know there are no birth registry. Ijebu land was just coming out of his self-entitlement exclusion. You know, up to this time, Ijebu land had no dealing with anybody. It was just to himself. Ijebu for Ijebus. Ijebu to himself. Okay? You could not trade in Ijebu land. Even as Yoruba, you can. But Ijebus could trade in other land. Okay? They did not allow strangers. No strangers will enter. You must stop at the gate. You must do all your transaction at the gate. You cannot enter Ijebula. Missionaries were not allowed. Christianity was not allowed. That was some of the reasons that forced the 1892 debate at Ibadan when the white colonialists had to now force Ijebu open for business, open to missionary entrance. Okay? Sending the Awujale to exile and then opening the town. And it was after 1892 that missionary began to enter. And that was why you see that compared to Egba land, where since 1841, 1842, Christianity had registered a presence. In Ijebu land, there was nothing like that until around 1892. Okay? So, Orekoya and Co were about the first generation of Christian that was wrestling. He was born around 1900. Okay? And around the period that he himself does not know based on the single interview that he had, okay, with a newspaper that is still in the archive, the National Archive in Ibadan. He himself confessed that he does not know the day of his birth. But one thing he remembered that it was around the period, he was still 18, he was still a young child during the time of the locusts, when people were pursuing locusts. That would be around 1912. So he was already a teenager around that period. So we calculate that he must have been born around 1900 or 1901. I mean, based on estimation, more accurate figure. Okay. Now, Orekoya, the mother, the parent of Orekoya, they suffer from what is called born to die spirit, Abiku. In other words, the children don't stay. The mother gave birth to children, but they usually die. And that was why only two of them survived. His sister, Madam Teresa, and Orekoya himself. Only two of them survived, the children that the mother bear. And even Orekoya himself was not a completely man. He was impaired in one eye. He was not a cripple. Another impediment with Orekoya is that it was like a dwarf. Okay? Even in all his adulthood, his head was like a 10-year-old boy. He was never like a dwarf. Okay? He had those two impediments. He was a dwarf, and then he was impaired in one eye. He does not see well with one eye. Okay? All right. So these are two things about Orekoya. Now, Orekoya early in life, when the Anglican communion, because when they got to Ijebu land, Ijebu embraced Christianity much more than even the Egbas. So that by the early 20th and the what was the legislature by 1901, of about 10,000 Anglican members in the whole country, Ijebu constituted, and you will now wonder why Ijebu produced the first diocesan prophet, bishop in the Anglican church. Okay, you know, Bishop Crowder did not have executive authority. He was not. But first diocesan full bishop with power was an Ijebu man, Odutola. Okay, so because they embraced Christianity, they resisted it. But later on, when it was proven, Ijebus embraced Christianity. Okay, much more widely, much more. He guided them with eagerness, much more than the Ijebus. So Orekoya was growing up around this period, and he joined the church. Somehow he realized that with all the impediment that he had, there is only one way he can solve it, and that is by joining the church. So he joined the church, and it is a way of the Anglican. He joined the CMS in those days that the minister, his Anglican figure usually have enough confidence in Orekoya that whenever he will be away, maybe to pay visit to other religions in that place, he leave Orekoya to conduct the service, the morning service in the Anglican church. So Orekoya was used already. He had learned how to read the Bible. Now you will ask me a question. If he did not go to school, how could he have read the Bible? This is one mystery with the women and men of those days. C.S. Lewis the professor of Oxford, he said something that Christianity is an education, and it is a fact. Real Christianity is my own mother, who died at 209 at over 90, she could read the Bible, and she never had a formal education. So all those Aladula women of those days, all the people of those days, they had that. You get it? That Holy Spirit, that when that revival came down, they could read the Bible even without anyone teaching them. Orekoya could read the Bible. So he would conduct the service whenever the vicar of the church will not be around. And this was how he began to develop a little confidence. Now, Orekoya began to observe there were certain discrepancies in what he read from the Bible and what he observed they were doing in the Anglican Church, even as early as that time. So as a result of this, Orekoya will go to secluded to mountain path to pray. Even while he was in the Jebu bush in his hometown, he will go to a path to go and pray, Lord, this is what I read in the Bible. This is what I'm seeing in the Anglican Church. What is and they will pray. And it was in one of those days while he was praying, he was directed by the Lord. Say, go to Lagos. That's all. Say, go to Lagos. He said he was directed by the Lord. Go to Lagos, move to Lagos. And so, around 1925, 26, Orekoya moved to Lagos without knowing anybody in Lagos. On a limb, he packed his thing, and he said, I'm going to Lagos. From Ijebu there, and he moved to Lagos. But because it was the Lord that was leading him, on arrival, somebody from Ilorin, a total stranger, housing, and it was there. He decided to learn a trade. Okay? And this is why he decided to learn tailoring. Orekoya decided to learn tailoring. And his master was from Ilorin. And he began to train. It was during this period of his apprenticeship that he heard of the Faith Tabernacle. Now, I cannot tell you the story of Faith Tabernacle because of time. Okay? So, but in subsequent video, by the grace of God, I will do something about the Faith Tabernacle. So while he heard about the Faith Tabernacle, and don't forget, it was the longing of his heart that sent him to Lagos. Not really because he wanted to earn a living. No, it was that longing for God. He wanted to fellowship with something that he feels is much more closer to the Bible. So having gotten to Lagos, he found out these people about Faith Tabernacle, and then he joined them. Along the line, he moved from where he was staying and moved to join Pastor Dubanjo's church at Ebutele. It was there he was posted to Idioro when the chapter of Faith Tabernacle was being opened there. He was posted to Idioro. Okay, go to Idioro and go and be the sexton of that chapter in Idioro. They had only 2 chapters there. Faith Tabernacle, one in the Butemeta, one in the, and then they opened one in Mushin, Idioro. I said, okay, you go and be in Idioro. So he was there, and it was usually to clean the environment. And then the pregnant woman, Faith Tabernacle does not use hospital. They don't take drugs. They don't take anything messy, whether Western, whether foreign or indigenous. Anything messy, other than prayer, water, and use of sound. Faith Tabernacle does not accept it. So it was Orekoya's duty too, to pray with the pregnant woman who came for ministration. It was observed about Orekoya that he was very neat, that he was very meticulous, that he was very punctual. He will always be there before the time, clear the whole place. And when the pregnant woman comes, he will pray for them, release sound for them, and encourage them. Okay? Towards their delivery. But one day, in 1928, around 1928, while he was clearing the place, he had a visitation. A strange man appeared to him and said, get this place cleared up. Clean this place up. Because very soon, you will have a group of visitors visiting. And he became joyful. He began to sing songs to God. One characteristic of Orekoya is this. He is always full of revelation, always writing, always writing about what he sees, about his dreams, about whatsoever. So he became joyful and began to rejoice and was claiming his dream. Suddenly, three angels appeared to him in broad daylight. Three angels appeared to him in broad daylight. And then they told him, when they saw that he was so discouraged, you can't see an angel and not be destabilized. I mean, when they saw that he was so destabilized, they changed their appearance. And then he could no longer see them. But he was still hearing their voice. And they now gave him messages. You will see those messages in my book. Okay? Born to Die, Born to Reign. The Untold Story of Prophet Daniel Orekoya. All right? The book is also on seller. For those of you in the diaspora, you can get it. Now, but the essence of the three message was this. God said he has heard their prayer. And they've been asking for power. And he's ready to give them that power. Okay? Okay? And that they should put away three sins. Number one, stinginess. Not giving up. Number two, they should put away worldliness. Then number three, they are women. Okay? All these jewelries, gold thing, you get the thing, and all this material, you get the thing, and lust, and fornication, and adultery. And he showed it. And then he's around the table, you get the thing, the house of the Lord. Okay? Sanctification, holiness to the Lord. These are the things that the Lord want them if they want to see revival. Orekoya gave this message to the church. And he said they should give him money so that they can travel to all the chapters of Faith Tabernacle across the nation to spread, because the Lord said he should deliver the message. But the church was not willing to, because number one, Orekoya's short stature, like a little boy, even though he's an old, get it like a 12. They didn't want, then he could not speak English. Then he doesn't really have a fitting appearance. It's not like Babalola, who is handsome, who is everything, who is tall, who is whatever, and who can speak, who is an orator. Guy, the Orekoya was an opposite. No? So Orekoya already had this grievance against the authority that they did not allow, but he continued. Then about a year later, God raised Apostle Babalola. All right? And Apostle Babalola, when the report of his words got to the leadership in Lagos, they invited him to one. He went there and he spoke. Okay? And then eventually, a year later, the great 1930 revival to Okeoye happened. I've also written about that, a whole book of over 250 pages. The great revival of 1930, the origin of Pentecostalism in Nigeria. If anybody tell you there's another, there is lying. That's the origin. Okay? Whether there is an apostolic or there is CAC, that's still the root. That's the thing that whether any missionary came from Bradford or what, it is still that thing that they came from. Without anything to share. There will be nothing to come for to share. That was the origin. So when that revival exploded, and Orekoya heard that the revival began in Okeoye, he was so eager to meet Babalola. So Orekoya looked for the money. When they would not sponsor him, he wanted to go to Elisha. Now this was the beginning of Orekoya. When he got to Ibadan, he raised the money. Don't forget he was still a staff, because he was the one who was sexting of Hideo motion. But since they would not sponsor him to go and deliver his message, he lost respect for this authority. So he raised money on himself from salary or whatever, and he proceeded. He wanted to go and meet Babalola at Okeoye. The moment he heard of the revival that he has been talking about, he wanted to go there. He got to Ibadan. He visited the Faith Tabernacle in Ibadan. Okay? When he got there, he met Mr. Apata, one of the elder there, and he greeted and said, he did not meet. They said, Baba Akinyele has gone to Ibadan. All of them have gone for the delegate meeting. When did okay? And they prayed together. He slept the night, but the next day he proceeded to Elisha. Now, here is the mystery. Here is the mystery. Orekoya arrived after Babalola has done more than 30 days. For a month, every day revival, except Sundays. For the 50 days that Babalola spent at Okeoye, Orekoya was on his way. However, I think few days before that time, the Lord spoke to Babalola. Somebody is coming. I'm sending you to leave this place on a higher assignment. I'm sending somebody. I'm bringing somebody to take over. Just like God spoke to Samuel, that I will send you a son. I will send you one of my servants, a young man, by this time tomorrow, and you will anoint him over my people Israel. So also, as soon as Orekoya landed in Elisha and proceeded to Okeoye, don't forget he's a short man. He's not as tall as him. He's like a 10-year-old man. He's a short stature. But because the Lord has spoken to his servant, as soon as Orekoya, in the midst of that crowd, imagine thousands of people. As soon as Orekoya was going, Babalola catch him. The Holy Ghost presented, and he called him, Daniel, Orekoya, come up stage. And Daniel Orekoya went to him, and Babalola took him. He said that. So from then on, he began to join. 3 days later, the next day later, the Lord spoke to Babalola, proceed to Ilofa for a crusade for me in your own hometown. So on the 20th, after 50 days, on the 30th of August, all right, the revival began around July 10, 11. All right. So on the floor of August, exactly 50 days, 30th of August, Babalola proceeded to Ilofa, leaving the revival in the hands of Daniel Orekoya, J. Babatokpe, and then Baba Medayesi, J. Medayesi, while he proceeded. So Orekoya continued the revival. This was how, for the very first time, he was entrusted with authority. Now here is it. Of the 4 corpses that was brought to him in the absence of Babalola, when somebody had died that time, the 4 corpses that was brought to him, and he prayed over them, 3 of them resuscitated in the absence of Babalola. So he too had received the unction of the Holy Ghost. Don't forget, he's a man of prayer and fasting. So he continued the revival at Okeoye. By 3rd or 2nd of September, he had to return. Don't forget, he's a staff. He's still a staff of a tabernacle. And order came, report back to your station. That's the problem with ecclesiastical authority. They hate glory. You have to be careful. You have to be careful. The day will come, I will talk about the problem Babalola faces. I've not said that one. I'm not going to that aspect but one day I will talk about it. So Orekoya had to proceed. He has to leave the revival in the hands of Baba Tokwe and Baba Medayesi, while Babalola was away, and return on his way back to Lagos. Now, this is where I get funny. When he got to Osogbo to take train back to Lagos, okay, he had to stop over at Ibadan. The moment he got into the train, according to eyewitness account, Orekoya was praying. Throughout the spirit had come upon him. You can't enter a place like Okeoye in those days. The power of God so descended upon Elisha. It was like the fire of God descending on Sinai in the day of Moses. Revival, fire, Holy Ghost fire. We only hear of noise today. The revival of today, the counterfeit revival of today is largely a revival of fundraising. Counterfeit revival. That was the last genuine revival Nigeria had. Holy Ghost descended. Fire, when my God descended upon Sinai. When God descended upon Elisha. People, go and read that book. People, even while approaching the town of Elisha, they fell down flat. Even while approaching the town, while approaching the revival, just looking at it away like the people collapsed. Witches began to confess. That was when the power of God descended on that time. Where is Elisha today? Eh? It is so sad. Eh? The dog is gone back to his vomit. All right? Where is the church today? Where are those churches today that came out of that revival? Where is divine healing today? It was not logo that alone. Where is he? Who is emphasizing him today? Who among them have not taken the vaccine? Where is he today? Orekoya was praying because the spirit of revival had come upon him and he was praying throughout. By the time he got to Ibadan, people began to recognize this is the man who was with Babalola to Orekoya. This is the man. This is the man. He wanted to stop to greet I.B. Akinyele, who was the leader of the Faith Tabernacle in Ibadan, and Pastor Aina, to greet them. Okay? So he branched. The train stopped. And he branched and then, early in the morning the next day, he went to go and see Atalafara, to see I.B. Akinyele. He had not yet become the king that time. I'm talking of 1930. So Orekoya went to go and greet him. And as he was coming back from the house of Akinyele, Akinyele prayed that the work that the Lord will do through him, as if he knew that the work that the Lord will establish it. As he was returning back, some women saw him. Were you not the one we saw with Apostle, with Babalola to Orekoya? And they followed him to his residence. As he was praying with those two, some other women came. As he was praying, before you know it, the whole place was occupied. The whole room was full. They have to get at Okebola. Around that place where 7-day Adventists is. Unfortunately, today there is no big CAC in that area today. And there is no big apostolic church in that area today. But 7-day Adventists is still there. You get to Okebola, that area. James Anglican Church is still there. That same area today. It is so sad. So, Orekoya went out because the whole room, the sitting room can no longer accommodate people who are coming. So that was how they went out. Before you know it, news began to spread everywhere. Another prayer man had arisen. In fact, newspaper carried it. That another man had risen up in Ibadan. And whose power of prayer too is beginning to sound as powerful as the one in Elisha. So another revival opened at Okebola. People began to come. People began to bring their things. And Orekoya was praying. Just like Babalola, bring a bottle of water. They will pray over it, sanctify. He will pray over it, sanctify. Okay? Oluwa gbamila emeola. Eh? That was his prayer. It's not long. You got it? Eh? In the video that you will see his handbell, his Bible. I took those same Bible, the ruling the research. I searched through everything, all the Psalms, one by one, with marking. In Bible, with marking everything, and what God showed him, he wrote them in that Bible. You got it? If a person die and we want to raise him from there, the Psalm you will read, it's all there. This is a secret that I can still not yet open up here because this generation is so frivolous. There are things I can't share yet. Get it? With people, because there are people, these children of today are so irresponsible with spiritual things. And I see why God will not commit very important things. So, that is how the revival began. Now, the high point of that revival at Okebola, the real one that actually sparked the great Okebola revival, was the resuscitation of a lady, Alice Abeho, who later became Alice Adisa, who had died in a village on the outskirts of Ibadan. When you are going towards it, there is a place called Igbo. When you get to Ojo, ask any Okada or ask the Malwa. If you get to Yana Barracks in Ojo, that second mechanized division, ask any Malwa there. When you are going to Igbo, you get it? You are going to Igbo Loyi, you are going to Igbo Eleri, you are going to Oyedeji. That's the route. Akpatere, all those routes. That area. You just keep on going like that. Now, that woman is from that village. She had died with pregnancy. In the video that you will see the picture of the lady. And the child of that pregnancy, you will see, I took a picture. The child of that pregnancy, you will see, I took a picture with that child. You will see it in this video. The lady died with pregnancy. And the husband, the ritual in that time is that you must not bury a pregnant woman because it's considered a bad luck, a heel luck, for a woman to die with pregnancy. So the herbalists charged the husband a lot of money, which they could not afford. All right? This story is captured in the newspaper. It's in the archive. Authentic story. As a result of that, they could not bury. So they now told the husband that there is a prophet at Okebola in Ibadan who is praying for people. Instead of praying for ritual, why don't you carry the and pray? And let him just pray before you bury your husband. So that this kind of thing again will not happen. So they got a vehicle and they carried the corpse of this woman. Or by the time they arrive at Okebola, you know in those days now, I mean, today from my house in Ibadan to Okebola, within a few minutes I will drive there. From my house to that Igboeleri, to that town, to that, I will get there. I've been there. I traversed all those. I'm still doing another research around that sector. I've visited the place several times. So, by the time they now arrived, it was on the fourth day. The corpse was already stinking. The corpse was already smelling, stinking everywhere when they brought that corpse. Now, this was in broad daylight. You see, when God wants to justify himself, you have not seen signs yet. When the kingdom is about to be established, you will see signs. Kingdom is established in the plethora of wonderful signs and miracles, signs that cannot be denied, that will silence the enemy. This thing did not happen because it was in broad daylight. Several eyewitnesses saw it. And so by the time they brought the corpse of Alice Abehu, Orekoya does not fear anything. He took his bell immediately and marched forward like a soldier to the war front and began to ring the bell and began to pray, began to ring the bell, began to pray, began to pray, began to pray, began to call the name of Jesus. That was the faith of those people. They don't believe there is anything that prayer cannot answer. Began to call the name of Jesus. After 30 minutes, the head of that woman began to shake. People were watching, literally. They saw the head of the woman began to shake. Later on, they saw the arms. Later on, they saw the leg. To cut the story short, a woman had been there for 4 days. At least you did not see the Lazarus. So, but that of Alice Abehu, they saw it. Yoruba saw it. In Ibadan land. And the lady came out with her pregnancy. They took her to the mission, took care of her. 3 months later, she delivered to that baby, safe and sound. I met that baby. She's now an elderly woman, Mrs. Sekundayo. You will see her picture, and the picture I took with her in this video. Okay? The baby of that pregnancy, that day. Okay? She developed. This woman herself lived for another 40 years. She died in 1972. Every day they do Ajodun Orekoya at CAC Olubode, they will invite her to testify. It's a true story. And several people who are still alive are aware of this story. And they knew this woman. She will come and testify. Every time there is Ajodun Orekoya, first Sunday in September, all CAC church in Oyo State, in Ijebuland, in Ogun State, and even in Egbado, and even in Benin Republic, they remember Orekoya because it was this revival that planted CAC in all those places. A woman who had died for 4 days rose as a result of. Now, let me tell you 1 or 2 things that happened as a result of that. While that was going on, there was a young man who was watching, who saw the thing happen with his own eye. His name is JSB Oduson. He was not an Aladura. He was just there that day by divine appointment, so as to see that thing. And when he saw it with his own eye, he said, yes, this is God. That was why he changed from his Anglican whatever and joined. He became CAC's second president. He's another person, even CAC don't know his history. I have also written about it. Terror of Witches, the untold story of GSB Odusor. That was the thing that brought him to join Allah, and he became assistant of Orekoya. He became the one who was keeping record for him, who was writing all the. I will tell you again, we will do another video about that one. The one who is called Terror of Witches. We will do another authentic one. An authority is talking. When the Alake of Egbaland had all these things, he sent for Orekoya, you must visit Abeokuta too. We want to see you in Abeokuta too. We want Obaladapo Ademola. This is documented. Why do you think today CAC in Isaliake Abeokuta is directly opposite the Ake Palace? Oh, you think by accident? This is why you need to know history. This is why you need to know history. It was that Oba who gave them that place, gave them okay for the revival, and that place became the land of today of CAC. That's why today CAC Isaliake Abeokuta is opposite the palace. They didn't buy it. The Alake himself surveyed the land, gave it to them. As a result of what Orekoya did. Along the line, Babalola to visit them. And it was through Orekoya revival that spilled over to Egbado and that spilled over to Benin Republic. In my paper, in the second book I wrote about Orekoya, the healing prophet, you will see how I trace the thing down, how the people, and how Orekoya's revival, how an angel appeared to some people and told them about Orekoya. This is the story of Orekoya. And let me tell you about the because you have heard of the accident of Orekoya. One fellow has said that it is slept with prostitute. It's a very terrible. It is the thing that has annoyed me to do this video. It's a most distortion, gross this. You better, if you are that person, go. I won't mention your name again. Go and do a serious 3 days of fasting and beg God for forgiveness, so that repercussion will not happen to your family for telling that egregious lie about the prophet of God. Terrible things will not happen before you and your family. A lot of people go through certain things in life and they don't understand the cause. These are the reasons. These are the reasons. Some sins go before us to judgment. Ahead of us, according to Timothy. Okay? Go and beg for forgiveness. You have told a lie against the servant of God. Orekoya had no time. Even for the single wife he had. One of the problems he had was that woman was making allegation against because he doesn't have time for a woman. Those people made the mistake those people made was that they married. They should have been like Orimolade without a wife. With the kind of work they were doing, they don't need a woman was a distraction. They were fully committed, 100% given. They were married to the work of God. Their biggest mistake was to marry another because they can never marry. They can never, they are so, you understand, like Paul. This is the person that's a foolish person saying he was busy sleeping with, you understand? But you have no father, you are fatherless. Okay, how do you know a bastard? Well, that's one of the reasons you know a bastard. He doesn't have any respect for heritage, for cultural memory. That's how you know a bastard. And the Bible says, enter not into the field of the fatherless. Don't associate with the fatherless. Otherwise, you bring discourse upon your head. Orekoya took the revival to Abeokuta, to Egbaland. Then to spill over, he did not himself go to Egbado. Okay, he stopped at Egba. But people who came from Egbado, who came there and received the thing, it was there God raised another woman. Comfort Bola Joko. I will do another, I've written about her. I will do a short video. There is a book that I'm collaborating with another professor we are doing together on Allah, women prophet. I hope we're able to publish. Okay? Another woman go raise from that when Orekoya was about to leave. Okay? Now Orekoya, meanwhile, the authority began to call Orekoya, come back. Don't forget he's a star. He had not resigned. They were sending for him, return. But everybody saw that the revival was of God. When eventually he returned to Mushin, he continued his small thing within there. But then, order was still coming. And it was there now. All this was 1930. It was in 1931 now that a woman now came from Sakwele from Wari to invite him to come. On his way, he was in Owo. He was in all those places. He had to revival. Okay? He had to revival with them. But he had no cordial relationship with the authority of the Faith Tabernacle Church. I will talk along that line. How you can operate, especially if you are somebody who is gifted, without being destroyed by the authority. But if you are not careful, you have to be careful with this. By the grace of God, nobody can destroy me because I learned these things early enough and I cut off every occasion. So nobody can trap me. It is late. You get it? No. If you fire your arrow, it will just bounce down. Because I'm not under anybody. I'm under the authority of God through his servant Jesus Christ, through his son Jesus Christ. Okay? And I'm pursuing what he has sent me to do. And when he says, be ye no slave servant of men, I know what he was talking about. So Orekoya was no other, and then don't forget there is the party in the home front. The wife too, who keep on leveling allegation against him, that he does not have time for him other than providing food. He does not have any conjugal relationship with. I told you these people were so committed. That was the situation. Okay? When he had that invitation to Sakwele. Orekoya was very, very gifted when it comes to miracle power. In one solitary year, because he ministered actually for 1 year, from July, if we can say even 1 year, okay, from July 1930, okay, to March or April 1931 when he died, just about 1 year. And from the record that was compiled by GSB Oduson, at least we saw 22 people recorded, raised from the dead. I'm not talking about the others. I'm not talking about that he raised from the dead, 22 people. When it comes to raising the dead, he has a far higher record, a far greater record than that of Apostle Babalola. That was his area. Spectacular miracles. Daniel Orekoya. Small but powerful. Short but very effective. You know, short people are usually they are very they are powerful. You remember Paul too, he was a short stature man, very powerful. Short people, be careful of them. Orekoya was a man of power and a man of glory. So that was the situation when he went to Sapele, okay? And the last time at the end of the Sapele, he had no cordial relationship with the authority. He despised them. He disregarded them. And that was his error. You don't despise authority. While you are under a communion, if you are in CAC, respect the authority of CAC. If you are a pastor there, or else leave. Okay? Leave. If you are in the apostolic church, respect the authority. If you are in a communion, respect the authority, or else leave, like I have done. Then leave. If you get to a level that you know, on conscience sake, I can no longer obey this kind of, you understand? Then separate peacefully, without any quarrel, without any fight. Yeah, that was the error of Orekoya. It's clearly stated also in my book. So when he went to Sakwele now, it was there during a revival, and while they were trying to touch a gas lamp, there was an explosion. All right? And then in the explosion consumed him so badly. From that little explosion, of course, Satan helped that explosion. Okay? And he consumed, and he consumed. By the time they brought him back to Lagos, the damage had been done too much. So he was taken to Ijebu Ode. was taken to Ijebu and prayer, spiritual prayer and crying was made to God on his behalf. But it was too late. It was a first degree burn. Don't forget, they don't use medicine. They don't use only prayer and water. Okay? So it was around that period that Orekoya, servant of the living God, okay, why his life ended. But before his life ended, he did make confessions that he had been very proud. And what happened was judgment over him. And he had that, he did advise that those coming behind should not follow his example of pride, especially in the area of despising authority. So one of the lessons we learn from Molecular, don't despise the authority of a church. If you are a member of that church, respect authority. Don't despise. All authorities, genuine authorities that are delegated by God in the church, in the living church, respect or live quietly. So Orekoya, the servant of the living God, breathed his last in the hail of glory. In 1 year, he had done more than most people do in a lifetime of ministry. In 1 year, he achieved it. In one single year. That's the story of Daniel Orekoya. Huh? From Ijebu Imushin, from Odono Pakotas, Daniel Orekoya. So this is a story. Please, if you are sharing this video, share it complete. Don't doctor it to avoid any legal issue. Don't doctor it and don't claim ownership of what is not your own. Okay? I still have issue of some people like that. You still on get it still on. You can share it as much as possible, but please don't doctor it and don't infringe on the copyright of this. I mean by claiming authority that is not yours. Thank you very much for listening. Now, more of this video, authentic one from research are coming on African gods general. We want to start from here first. Okay? From true story based from research. So I will encourage you to subscribe. Okay? So that the other ones coming. If factual story, enough of all these things. Factual story, enough of all this AI doctor falsehood. No, he said the Bible says search the truth. He said hold that and then hold to that which is true. You get it in search and hold to that which is so. This is an opportunity for you to get in this series, in this network, in this channel. You will get to then know about the founding fathers of African churches. So I welcome you. Please quickly subscribe and then meet me again next week for another upload. Thank you very much.